motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
And I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we're talking about the elephant in the room, and that's mass. So I've been reading all kinds of crap, and the more you read, the more opinions you get, or so-called facts. If you look at what the CDC says, and you look at what travel things say, and all that other kind of stuff. But the consensus is, you ought to get vaccinated if you have no other reason not to. That'll help you. But, that said, there may be reasons why people don't. I don't quite understand it, but, so, then you get into things like, you'll see signs that say, if you're fully vaccinated, masks are optional. And if you're not, you should wear a mask. Then you see the other extreme, which is, no matter who you are, you wear a mask, like on an airplane and that kind of stuff. Most of us are vaccinated, so I'm,
But I don't think any of us, other than Mike, has had the disease.
well, that was the next
That's
question.
natural
Did,
immunity.
do you, was it verified that you had it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that brings up another interesting thing. If you look at, like some of the, like the CDC recommendation for people coming back into the U.S., it says, there's different qualifications on vaccinations and everything, but you still have, everybody has to be tested because it's into the U.S. Unless you have it's been verified by a doctor that you had it.
Or you come over the border illegally.
Well, yeah, but,
They just
right,
like humor
right.
that one, but yeah.
But you had it, but you had to have had it within 90 days. Then if you look, I looked at another country's site, and they also said if you had it, you could be exempt from testing, but you had to have had it more than 30 days ago. In other words, you had to have it long enough ago that you have been fully through it, and now you're incubated from it. And they had no maximum time like the U.S. did, so who knows?
Well, the virologist at Johns Hopkins says he thinks that natural immunity might be even stronger.
Well,
But
there's some,
that's also,
there's
also,
yeah,
But
you hear both sides of
but
that.
what's a fact is Montgomery County decided you didn't have to have a mask inside last Thursday.
Now they say you do.
Oh, they went back to?
They went back again, because they had gone back, and then they just imposed it again.
Yeah, like Prince George's County, it's still
But,
a mask mandate.
But I think
because-
it's such a bad.
Yeah,
So,
well, for Sophia's in school, that's why now we have to wear a mask, yeah.
So anyway, my opinion, and if somebody wants to make a motion to change that or whatever, my opinion is, let's make it optional and personal choice. I think if you're, for your own benefit, if you haven't had it, and haven't been vaccinated, and everything else,
That's different, that's a different
you ought to
story.
wear it, just for your own
Yeah.
safety. I'm vaccinated, I'm boosted, I feel safe enough. So,
I'm almost getting a booster next week.
so any discussion on that, or any different opinions, or?
Look, be careful, because I got it from somebody that was vaccinated, and I'm 100% sure of that.
Right, which is why a vaccinated
Then
person is supposed to wear a mask.
And then I turned around and gave it to my parents who were in their 90s who were vaccinated, and somehow they got it, but they didn't die from it.
Right.
Well, it all,
My brother, early 60s, got really sick from it, so I mean, it's just all over
It's all
the
over the
place.
board.
We're
It
gonna
is,
be
it's all
living
over
with
the
this
place.
forever. Yeah, this is gonna be like the flu.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not.
I think
probably.
Moderna is
I'm not
coming up with a
minimizing it.
combination.
I'm not
of
minimizing it,
immunization.
but I'm saying it's just,
Yeah.
we think we're gonna get rid of it. We're not gonna get rid of the disease ever, in
No.
my opinion.
well, there'll probably be different
There'll be variations.
variations.
Just
Kill us all off
Like
and
the
slowly.
flu.
Bring
There you
everything
go.
back.
There you go.
Okay, everybody good?
I'm fine with that.
I just wanted to say,
Not gonna make fun of you, you wear
now, my mom got the booster on Friday and she was She got the inflammation of the heart. She was in the
Oh,
emergency
one of
room
those.
yesterday.
She got one.
Inflammation of the heart. She had a heart
Oh,
attack.
my
It's
gosh.
just young people that's supposed to have
Especially
to.
boys, I think.
Well, she had a really bad reaction to the second shot, and I did too, but the
Was that
third,
Moderna or
third, yeah,
Pfizer?
Moderna, and the third shot, put her in the emergency room.
Yeah.
So I hate to like,
No,
I mean, I'm
that's
all
fine.
for shots, but I also hate to make anybody do anything that's
Yeah.
against their
Well, I
thing,
had
so,
the Moderna also in the second, I had.
yeah, so anyway.
There seems to be no way to predict who
Yeah,
it's
it's
gonna,
not,
who it's
yeah.
gonna affect. I had no reaction to any
I
of it.
didn't either.
I had Pfizer.
So,
My daughter had a bit more of a reaction. She had Moderna.
I had a reaction,
More people say
a
that.
reaction to the second Moderna.
I had Pfizer, no reaction at all.
No.
Yeah, it just varies, it seems.
okay, no, enough of that.
All right, moving right along.
Moving on. Office update. Got lots to talk.
And work on the newsletter, there's that. And I created a front page that talks about the special tax district, because we need to show the commissioners that we are educating the community. So there's that, and you guys can go through it and add to it or whatever. I'll be sending it out, I don't know, what did I tell you? You had to have a letter to me the week before Thanksgiving, the president's letter, right? Yeah. December general membership, for anybody that didn't get my email, is December 11th at 10 a.m. It's a Saturday meeting. And strongly encourage discussion of the STD. Again, just to show the commissioners. And then Friday, oh yes, Friday. Sal walked in about 5 after 8, and he said, and that's our roads guy, our volunteer road person, Sal Casa. He walked in and he said, Maria, it's gonna be a long day. And I'm like, what? I had no idea. He'd already been driving around, and both causeways, the Riverview and Bay Causeway, were both already being, overtaken. So he and Joe Bateman, our day laborer, Joe, tried to figure out how to close those two causeways. And we have signs that we use on a temporary basis. They're makeshift things, and you can write on the road work, or road closed or whatever. But there's no way to secure them with sandbags, for instance. They're like A-frames. You can't, there's no base that you would put a sandbag on. So they opted, and with Mike's agreement, not to put those signs out. But, because they were afraid they'd blow away and hit somebody's car or out exploring the weather.
We had cones up.
We put cones out, they put cones out instead, and none of them blew away.
Oh, I was gonna ask.
None of them blew away, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So there's that, but we talked about it, and I've looked in the catalog, and I talked with somebody from Vulcan, our sign people and our road equipment stuff people. And she's working on some pricing for road closure signs that can be, well, some has legs that you could put sandbags on. There's another thing, it's called a cone bar, I think, and you would have 2 cones and a bar across the road. So anyway, she's working up some prices on that. I really think we need to spend some money. Doesn't happen often, and sure as you're prepared for something, it won't happen again. So
Don't get the
perhaps,
cone barn thing, somebody will steal it.
well, that's a good possibility. Yeah, I didn't think about that,
I've seen
yeah.
those things disappear on the base.
Oh, really?
That's what they do in the public, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, like,
That's
where'd
a
the
good
thing
point.
go? Is it one of those things that you just pull it out and
Yeah,
there's a strap
it's
across it?
It's not, oh, no, you
Oh.
would use 2 cones, and it's a bar, it's an actual
Well, that
bar.
might be
It's
different.
expandable.
Okay, that is different. These things have
And
a
it sits
strap
on the
and I
cone.
guess people like them and then when they put them back to the thing and then somebody pick it up, throw it in the car and drive off with it.
Interesting.
You're talking about the stanchions that have a retractable.
Like a
Oh,
strap
like you
that
have
comes
like an
out to the
airport.
other side.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I know
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's like you
Yeah.
see the airport.
Okay.
Yeah, they used to have them over there. They finally got
This
tired
might
of
work
this.
better, but we're not gonna get less water. We're gonna get more
No,
water.
we are,
So,
we are.
it
So I think
wouldn't
we
hurt
need to be more
wouldn't hurt to
prepared
invest in them.
than we were.
But the other thing too with that bar, it has to be far enough away that people, when, they're driving,
Yeah.
they come around and then there's the bar.
Well, the
And
thing-
then to
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you have to, yeah. So you
get
put,
out of there.
Well, maybe we should also then order a sign that could be secured, because you can't like keep Marjorie Sanguinetti's house
Mm.
from being accessible.
Right.
And the same with the Riverview and those are the two causeways. I think the other three are pretty safe from flooding. But the Riverview is one way, but again, people live right down at it. So you can't block it up here.
Mhm.
So maybe we should also look into pricing some signs that can be secured that way.
Mhm.
So I'll have
Let's
that.
look at both, go ahead and get the,
Right.
descriptions of both, and let's look at them
Yeah.
and see.
I mean, you know, if you put this sign further up, say, you know, like on, what is that, Lake,
Preview.
and it's Lake and Lake
Right.
View,
Lake Place?
you know, like right
Yeah.
at, right at that corner,
Mhm.
or something saying, you know,
Right.
beware,
We've
Yeah.
done that in the
you know, that
past.
they can,
Yeah, and we have done that in the past, not for winds, maybe when the Bay Causeway was so over
When it was flooded, yeah.
last year. We did put a sign up above the causeway, so, yeah. So that's it, that's what we're working on there. That's it.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the other stuff under roads and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the beach and so on, these things?
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I thought so.
I'll do it, yeah, okay. Speaking of roads,
Mentioned the abandoned boat or.
Oh, there's a good one, yeah. I forgot about that, oh, thank you. So also in my report, I had a call Thursday, I believe, from DNR officer who was down at the community beach with several sheriff's deputies. And a boat had washed up on the beach, and they were going up and down the coast, the bay, you said you saw them.
Yeah.
Looking for whoever might have fallen from that boat. They had the number, it was a commercial boat, I think like a crabbing boat, one of those small ones that you see out there. So they had the name of the owner, but they couldn't get in touch with him, they were concerned. So they secured the boat. But then I had a call later in the afternoon. They had gotten a hold of him. He was fine. It had washed, or, come away from his own pier and apparently washed on the bay, because I think he's in St. Mary's County. I don't know where he lives. That's where the boat was registered.
Wow.
Seems odd that it would go that far. But anyway,
Mm.
so it was all fine, and the owner came and got it Thursday night, before all the rain and mess. So that was good.
The cops called because they wanted the cameras.
Oh, that's right, that's
Mhm.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
So Jack went and pulled the chips out of the cameras, and it didn't show anything, but, anyway. So the chips are changed now.
Yeah, that's a good chance of
I
it.
forgot about that.
Did
So,
you have to
yeah.
climb up on a ladder?
Yeah, the cops held the ladder.
They're ready to catch you.
Well, somebody.
Jack, that's what your wife's for.
And so, yeah, thanks for reminding me. That was it.
Drama.
It was
I
my
know.
excitement for the week.
Right.
switch to roads now?
Sure, exactly. Oh, yeah, what is next? So the major paving, Chris Franklin, our new project manager, tells me the major paving is all done, including a couple of little areas that are not part of the original paving, along Overlook, Riverview, on up Vista, and so on. Couple of places, there was a place that washed out on Mill Creek, up above Anchor,
Oh, yeah.
weeks ago now.
Right.
But we had a cone there, and he asked if they would go ahead and do that. And then I suggested that we add Walsh. I don't know if you've ever gone down Chestnut as it goes out to Rosby Hill Road and make a left onto Walsh. It was horrifically potholed right there. So they fixed that as well. So that's all finished. They'll come back in a week or so. He doesn't yet have a date to do the shoulder backup. So that's basically done. And now that that is done, I'm going to put him on some of these stormwater management jobs that, where he maybe needs a little grading in the swale and so on. I think I told you last month, one major job in front of Dave Fost's house, where Dave Fost lives on Bay. Just, Marjorie Sanguinetti's
Yes.
house, right?
Yeah.
So just beyond, and it curves back around and goes up the hill.
Okay, yeah.
There's a little yellow.
Oh, yeah,
kind of
Dave,
color.
yeah, I know.
You know Dave.
Yeah, I know
Everybody knows
Dave.
Frost. He's been having a lot of trouble with his lot flooding.
Yeah.
And over the years, we looked at it, Gary Hill looked at it, so on and so forth, and he could see nothing that we could do, because that house sits below the
Yeah.
houses across the street, and gravity is such.
Yeah,
that-
so I saw Sal there.
So Sal looked at it and he said, well, what about this and that? And so he had some ideas about cleaning the swale, cleaning out the pipe, and so that was on the list. Well, the man who was building the house, the new house,
Mhm.
came in one day and said, hey,
Oh,
would you mind if I clean out the swale, clean out that pipe? Yeah, go ahead. So he did that, and Sal was in today, or he called me today, and he said he saw Dave yesterday. Perfect.
Oh,
Not, it's all done, it's, yeah, I think Dave is so happy.
Yeah, good.
So that worked out well.
Good.
But there's a few other somewhat minor things that I wanted to get Chris through the paving because, you know, he's kind of new with us and he works full-time for the county. He's not as flexible with his time as Jeff was, because Jeff was a contract worker. So,
It sounds like he's really good.
oh, he is.
Yeah.
Stormwater
Really,
management
like, really-
is his,
The right man
field of
at the right
expertise,
time.
I guess. Yeah, exactly. And so then that comes to Curry Drive. And if anybody was at the membership meeting, the gentleman that stood up and
Mhm.
suggested that we would not take care of the roads. So I said, well, we can't do it until you tell us. Anyway. You looked at it, Sal looked at it. Who else
Gary.
looked- Gary looked at it. And I think you and Gary actually came up with the idea that maybe put some CR6. He doesn't have an actual driveway. He has just some gravel that he pulls off the road onto.
Mhm.
So they suggested that we have Grover's give us a price on doing some CR6 and what they term an apron.
Okay.
Is that what you're looking for? So compact the CR6 and so on. So $850 is what Mike Toro, who is the foreman for Grover's wants to. So we would need a motion. If you wanna-
Is that his driveway or?
It's our
Well,
right of way.
It's our
Our
right of
right-of-way.
way. One of the problems there is that they should have done it right when they put the house in there, but over time, that road's been built up. There's a pretty steep drop off right down to this gravel driveway.
Mhm.
And so you're getting some erosion coming right down through our right of way.
Yeah.
So we just thought that to put a culvert in there would be a major job, because you'd have to dig a whole big swale out, put a culvert in, and fill it all up, and, just be, so we thought we'd try to, good solid tamp down CR6 and see if that'll hold. It's not,
How big is CR6? Is that those big ones or?
no, it's the small stuff.
Okay, the regular ones,
And
okay.
it becomes, is that the one that becomes solid after a number of
Yeah,
years? So
becomes-
it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
they lock in.
It's got a lot of rock dust in it, so
Yeah.
it really packs down.
Yeah, I've seen people use it for driveways.
Yeah.
It's incredible how it works.
Yeah.
It does work well.
So-
It's no longer considered impervious surface
Right.
either. It's because it does compact solid. Yeah.
Mm.
So my recommendation is we go ahead and try this, it's not that expensive.
Mhm.
So if there's a motion to approve that or to not approve it, or
I'll make a motion that we accept the
$850
$850
for a second,
estimate.
Exactly.
all in favor, opposed? Okay.
So I'll let him know that we're doing that. I told him that we were looking at a solution, so. So then the other thing is the community beach. Mike had asked me to get a price from Grover's for cleanup, because there's a lot of loose asphalt now, more so than usual, big pieces. I'm getting confused with Bay Drive, but, so anyway,
Well,
it's a good time to clear it off.
most of you have probably been to the beach, you've seen what's going on down there. And so you got up by Edinger's property, by the property line, there was a chunk of the old roadway right there. And it had been eroded back some, so there was a drop off there. And then, depending on what day of the year you go by there, you can have a whole bunch of asphalt all along the beach, or you could have nothing. Well, I rode by there the other day, and that, where it was eroded, it's eroded even more. It's torn up more of that asphalt. There are big chunks of asphalt on both sides of it. I think Shirley had picked up some smaller pieces and stacked them up. So, if you remember, we talked about, a while back, we talked about maybe being able to get a dumpster and have a cleanup day down there. And we found out that getting a dumpster for that kind of work was expensive and hard to find and everything else.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought, well, maybe since the stuff is there and exposed and easy to get to, let's see if we can get somebody to come in there and pick it up. And maybe some of the driftwood and some other stuff in there. So we asked Grover to come down and look at it. And you can tell them what the bid is.
$16.95. That includes the disposal cost, because you don't just take it to the landfill, you have to take it back to an asphalt company
Right.
and pay them to get their own product back.
Yeah.
Because then they'll grind it up and use it in
That's right.
something.
This has been going on for a couple of years.
Oh, for a
Oh,
long,
yes.
yeah, a long time. I mean,
Decades.
this goes back to Isabel and probably
Is
other.
the pavement or whatever you're seeing, the chunks lying around, is that road that goes to the gate? Is it just keep getting worse? Is it gonna keep?
Well, there used to be a road all the way through there.
Yeah,
That was
I
over.
haven't been there in a while, the road's not
I've been
there
in
anymore.
Overlook
Decades
Drive
ago.
used to come all the way down,
Decades ago.
around through the, like, where the club property is, and then down onto our property, and then up onto Beach.
Okay,
Well, Isabel, I think, washed that out, and it was not recovered, so it has abandoned the road. But over time, it's more and more erosion, and, the asphalt's exposed, it's not, environmentally, it's
yeah,
not a very good
we
thing.
probably.
Aesthetically, it's not a good thing.
And it just gets worse and worse.
Mhm.
Environmentally, we probably should do it.
So this seems like a good time to maybe get them in there to do a cleanup and see where things go. And then if we are able to do the full beach project that we're planning on, that will also include some more cleanup and restoration down there.
Yeah, this is just picking up what's loose right now.
What's loose and,
Otherwise, we'd have to have a permit, if we were going to try to, break up what's not loose, we'd have to have a permit, that'll be part of it.
And have we ever determined that whether that's a bad idea to break it up or?
I think that's part of what,
well, it's breaking it naturally, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah,
mean, it's,
but I mean,
won't MDE have
If we're-
to tell us if we can or cannot do that? I mean, permitting.
we probably.
I mean, when the time comes, we
Yeah,
have to break it up.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a good idea, I think,
Oh, yeah.
Just pick it up, oh, yeah, pick up what goes
I mean,
down.
nobody wants to go to the
And it's
beach.
great that we can get it done
Big
for
chunks of
$16.95.
Yeah.
95. 95.
Yeah, let's go with that.
$16.95?
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'll take
So is
that.
there a motion then to accept that?
What category is this?
Storm, I would say storm cleanup. Because then we can build the STP.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a motion from Austin.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve that. I'll
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So what are you doing, Jack? You looking to see if we have the money in the right accounts?
Where is it on here?
I would put it under storm cleanup.
And what's that number?
Storm was just
$68.25.
Yeah, 668.
Yeah, we're still waiting on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Especially
Okay.
if we use the SDA money.
I could also pay for it from shore funds because, well, no, I couldn't. No, that's gotta be roads.
Yeah, no, it used to be a road, it's not.
It doesn't
Yeah,
count.
yeah.
Probably doesn't count. Okay. So,
Okay.
STP.
All right, yeah. Speaking of cleanup,
Oh, and then, Joe was in today, Joe and Pam, and they said that the Bay Drive Causeway has a lot of debris on it. And wondered if, it's too big for them to get. Some of it's quite big.
Yes, and I've got pictures of some of it.
And, I wondered if we should get a price from Grover's for that, or possibly Carl Bowen, since it's wood, and he
Yeah,
has
a lot of it's
grappling
like
things.
wood with big nails, because it's like the stairs and things.
Right.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah, that kind
Sure.
of wood,
Yeah.
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 So-
Yeah, it's got big rusty nails on it.
Didn't that white picket fence,
Eric?
ruined?
Well,
Yeah,
Eric
that's
took,
off of Marjorie's.
yeah, Eric took some of that back, and Eric spent over an hour, he picked up over 100 pieces of trash, before Joe got there. And
Oh,
then Joe-
really?
Yeah, Eric spent a long time, probably about 2 hours, cleaning up before Joe got there, and then Joe got there and got some of the, like, bigger pieces.
Right.
But yeah, they spent a good amount of time, and I took pictures before they cleaned up, and there were, hundreds of pieces of trash, but also, there was like a big boat console, it was huge on the
Really?
rocks, and yeah, there were some gigantic pieces that
Just the
were.
console, just the center console?
Yes, the center console, it was like laying on, it was just bizarre looking, because you had these bizarre pieces just like sitting on the
Oh my
rocks.
God.
But a lot of like wood, like you were saying, with, rusty nails and things that, somebody else needs.
With the
to-
picket fence too?
The picket fence Eric put back on Marjorie's, because he knew it was, her
Yeah.
fence got really hammered, and he picked up what he could and he brought it back over, and laid it next to her.
At least she's got the
fence.
pieces.
But yeah, she really got hammered.
Okay, but, all the debris you're talking about though is on the riprap, not on the road. So it's not on the,
It was on the road, some of it was on the road. He moved it, Eric spent a lot of time moving the stuff off.
'cause I
and
went
they
by,
did it.
I rode down there on, when did we have the
Friday. This is Friday.
So I went down on Saturday, and there was almost nothing on the road, and a couple little pieces, and I
Yeah,
picked them up.
Eric was down there about 9 in the morning cleaning up.
Today?
No, on
The morning after.
the morning after the storm, Saturday.
Okay, well then I was probably down there after that.
Yeah,
But most of what I saw was on the riprap.
And then I drove by and you guys did a good job,
Um,
because the road was definitely clear.
So
There was nothing there.
I think there's two ways to look at it. It's really not endangering anything. It's aesthetically not very nice. A lot of times, situations like this, nature giveth and nature taketh away. Eventually that stuff's gonna wash away.
yeah, but you
now-
don't want like,
People
there's an
fish
issue
there.
too, yeah,
They- they
there are these
yeah.
giant nails in it, and also,
Yeah.
if you have these big pieces of board that go back in the water, the boats,
No, I know.
hit them.
Yeah, I'm
and-
just saying, there's two ways to look at it. Because a lot of times, I mean, after these kind of events, or when you have, like, major pieces of driftwood and truck and
Mhm.
trees and stuff,
Mhm.
people don't go clean that up, they just let it go away.
Well,
Now, I'm not saying that's right,
well,
but,
somebody did come and pick up the lumber, I don't know who it was, but there was somebody with a truck who came by and picked up the workable pieces
Yeah.
of lumber.
right.
They salvaged them, which,
That's fine.
Your
which is
steps.
fine, yeah.
Took your dang steps.
But I would be worried about the board, most of the stuff is fine, but the boards with the giant nails on them, because, people do go over there and go,
Yeah, no, that's fine, that's, yeah.
Would it be liable if somebody picked up a board and cut themselves?
well, I would say like.
If they knew we were talking about it, they would.
Could be,
But I think most of the,
Okay.
most of the trash is picked up, so it's just like these odds and ends of.
So I can't edit in the middle.
well, why don't you, I think it might not hurt to have two people look at it,
Grover's and
Yeah.
Carl.
because Grover tends to be high.
Yeah, I don't know if you need graders, but.
But
Well,
But
Carl
then
has more.
getting Carl to do it in a timely way, that's another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's.
So, Once you find out, and then just, send it around and
Okay.
we'll vote by mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of agree with Mike here, that, let's wait till the end of the winter and see what winter tides do to clean it up.
Yeah, we could do that too. So you want a price from Grover's as well, or just Carl?
Well, no, get a couple, just to see if they're in the same ballpark.
Okay.
So I think we do have some time,
Yeah.
worry about it.
Okay.
Whereas that beach, if we leave that asphalt on the beach very long, it's gonna get buried again,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
close
exactly.
again.
Yeah, that's
I
something
just think
where,
it's a
yeah.
target of opportunity now to
Yeah.
do it.
That makes sense.
yeah, I agree with that.
And I stressed that when I talked to Mike Torley yesterday. I stressed
Okay.
that that's why we wanted the prices as soon as we could do it.
All right, speaking of Mike Toro, it's not really roads, but it's operation. The well rings, we approved in doing that to see,
Yeah, no, it's November now, so now,
okay, he's just
into
waiting
this
for a low
month.
tide
he was waiting
period.
for the lowest tide period.
When is that?
Well, he mentioned in November, but I mean, didn't somebody say
It's
January?
Yeah, I had heard January.
February. Yeah.
Well, is November lower tide than August, say? I mean, he's waiting for low tide
In
period.
August.
Well, winter, in general, winter tends to have lower tides than summer.
That's what they're waiting for.
But, so all you have to do is just look for,
Find
you know,
it.
look for a period when there's,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be, you know, one of these super low tides.
Right,
Because when I looked at it at one time, it was just a normal low tide and most of it was all exposed.
okay. Well, I'll call my team. Calling him directly gets quicker results.
Oh, so that's what you said, yeah, I think. I figured that's probably the case. Okay, anything else on,
I don't think so.
you got any more things you want to spend our money on?
Well.
Okay. Jack, does she have any more money to spend?
Did we get the property next?
Oh, got
Oh,
it.
that's a good thing to talk about. Is it on here? It's not.
I guess that's not, we missed that.
Yes, so back up to my office update. I sent I created a purchase agreement. Pelagotti's office, Jesse, who works there, said, you just have to draw up a purchase agreement. So I did that. I sent it to her to review. She said if it's not more than one page, we wouldn't be charged for it. If it goes beyond, then yeah, Tom will probably charge. So anyway, I kept it to one page, and it was basically fine. She advised me on how to do the dating of it. So got that, printed it, Mike signed it, I sent it to Ms. Hawkins last week and for her signature, and explained what will happen, and I got the return receipt on that today. So what will happen is she'll sign it, send it back to us, I'll forward it to Tom Pelagotti's office, then they'll draw up the paperwork for the closing. Her portion, Ms. Hawkins' portion of the closing is $150, plus a $20 recordation fee, I believe. And she was agreeable to that, and explained that we're footing most of that. I think our portion is $870 or something like that. Yeah, I'm just waiting for her to send it back to me, and then I'll send it on up to Tom Pelagotti's office. And it's all gonna be done by mail. She'll have to have her signatures notarized, witnessed and notarized. As will we, so I guess I can notarize your signature. Good. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Okay.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, Jack, how are we doing?
Well, I was away from this for a month, so I got to get back into it almost today. But we, working through it. We're right where we expect to be on all the line items. Some are slightly over, just only a very few dollars. But just about where we would expect to be at this time of the fiscal year. Nothing extraordinary to report. But going over several of the line items in the balance sheet, for some reason, in one version of this, not the one you have in front of you, the boat ramp was listed under fixed assets. So I thought in my month's absence that this had been, because we had talked about it some time ago, and I thought, well, it's been done, but it hasn't. And it points out that we still don't know what the value of the boat ramp is.
There's a line item for it, so we obviously discussed it, and I apparently clicked off that line item and created a report at one point. But, so we need to figure out how to value that.
And then let's say we came up with some plausible number. It's just, we don't have to go back to the auditor or anything.
No, the only thing I would say is that I can't post it before July 1st because he's already done the audit. So I would post it as of July 1st
for the new fiscal year.
for the new fiscal year, just post it as an asset like the other assets. And I could ask him how to do that, but I think I know how to do that, you know. I'll just assign the value that we come up with. So, and I'll let him know that, you know, next year's audit comes around, we added that.
And then what's concern would be on the other side of the balance sheet, to, if we had, say, 25,000 or whatever, don't we need a countervailing?
That's what I would ask.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It would be,
An
yeah.
auditor or a CPA, do we have one? I mean, what would I post?
You talking about contra accounts?
Well, no, I don't think so. We have a contra account for the STD, but that's the only contra.
I would be willing to sit down and get an understanding, and I don't know if
Okay.
I'd have the answer, but I bet you I could find out.
Okay,
You know?
okay.
You understand specifically what you're talking about.
Well, it would be, it should end up being in our equity, since it's paid for. I mean,
Right,
there's no liability against it, so
You're
there.
talking a pier, is that what y'all are talking
yeah, well, boat ramp and
Boat
a
ramp.
about? Boat ramp, and Drum Point owns this?
yes, off the
Yeah.
Riverview,
Is there land that goes with it?
not, well,
So you can't
If
amortize
you-
land, or, I don't know.
if you go down Riverview toward the boat ramp, you'll run right into the boat ramp. So
Okay,
there's no
okay, I know what you're
land in particular
Okay.
around the.
We own the road and the right of way
Right.
going down
Right
through
of
the
way.
water.
Right.
And then we have a dock, you know, for people to tie up to while they're loading their boat, and then a boat, you know, asphalt boat ramp going down through the water.
Can I get with you, Jack, on this?
Yep.
Okay. We'll just-
So the dock, you could probably figure the cost of it, or the price of the dock, that wouldn't be too hard to figure out.
Right.
The rest of it's sort of an amenity, you know,
The ramp.
how you price that, but you could probably get an estimate.
Replacement value, yeah.
Just to replace, yeah, you can do that.
Mhm.
And then it would, so then that would show up as a fixed asset, and then it would be balanced by a line, you know, part of the equity.
The only issue with QuickBooks is that every time you try to, I think it's retained earnings, if you post a retained earnings, you get a warning, like, shouldn't be doing that in
Oh, you
QuickBooks.
post two retained earnings.
Well, if that would be the opposing, for, you know, the asset and then the retained earnings and the journal entry.
Yeah, you wanna go somewhere smaller before you, I mean, what you were saying.
Yeah,
Something
so,
to identify.
and I can ask, I mean, I'm really pleased that you're on board because
Well, I haven't
it's
been
great
doing
to.
this stuff in
Well, I'm
quite a
just
while,
saying, but
yeah,
you-
yeah.
I'll have
be
some
able to
questions,
recall things,
But we
yeah.
can also, I can also send an email to our auditor, and he'll answer questions for me. There's no charge for that, you know, that's just
Yeah.
part of what we pay yearly for. But I'm real pleased that you're on.
Yeah,
board
and I
because-
have a lot of accounting friends, so that helps too.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good,
Yeah.
It's
excellent.
good, and it's a good thing to get an answer to that now, because when we get the lot across the street, you're gonna have to do
Oh,
the
that's
same.
another,
thing.
that's
Yeah.
right,
That's true.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's it for.
That's it? How about the dynamic environmental duo?
I have nothing, and Jenny and Ashley, if you have anything that you, have you started the Ivy League work?
No, it's gonna be weekend after next, Saturday, November 13th. And I haven't chosen a lot yet, I'll do that this week,
Okay.
and let Reno
You know-
know.
And I don't know if this is relevant to anything, but I'm looking at some, on Lake Drive near me, there's a lot that's being cleared, but there's all sorts of other weird type vines that are growing up trees, not just ivy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they are. And
Some
I
of
can't
them are poison
imagine,
You get the
And I can't
Virginia
imagine-
creeper will grow up, you get
and you can, I don't know if
poison
that, I don't
ivy.
know if those are any good for trees either.
Virginia creeper's not bad.
It's not
No,
bad.
No.
it's easy to,
Yeah.
it's,
Do you, but is it better to pull it off or just leave it? Just leave it?
Virginia creeper? Yeah, I would leave Virginia creeper,
Okay.
but I'm just gonna focus on
And
the
the ivy, yeah.
Yeah.
All the ivy.
That's my nickname in high school.
What, creeper?
What's that?
It makes you so weird about talking about
I don't think I've let everybody know.
And then Autumn Phillips couldn't make tonight's meeting, but she'll be here next month.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And I sent some pictures around of, it just happened, it's funny, because we had just talked about, removing Phragmites and in a way that, you know, wouldn't use chemicals and having Autumn come by and talk to us about it. And I was walking down Calvert Cliffs, down the red trail, having no clue that
They're doing
They
something
were-
over there.
they were doing it right at that time. I was walking down. And so you get to the end of the red trail, I think it's at Flag Pound too, but they have put out this Echo Haven, they got a grant, and they put the tarps out, and it's a little bit surprising if you're not expecting it, because they're plastic tarps you know, where all the frag mines used to be, and then, you know, and you can see the water, you know, like before you could see all the reeds blowing and everything. So it does make it look really different, but I talked to,
I thought it looked ugly.
it,
Yeah, that's-
it does, it looks ugly.
Yeah.
But I talked to a park ranger to ask like, well, how long is this plastic down here? And they said it takes a couple of months for the roots to rot, the Phragmites roots to rot. And then, because it gets hot and it, so, and then they remove it and then they replant with, native species, but, so the charts are on for a couple of months, but he said that the whole project, including replanting, it takes about a year. But they, of course, had a grant, so, you know, but it was a massive, massive undertaking, it's a huge
It's
area.
it's very labor intensive.
Yeah,
Very.
but the plus side is there are no
Yeah.
chemicals used, and there's no like heavy equipment used.
Is that what it's called, the TARP method?
Yeah, that's the tarping.
Solarization, I guess. is-
Solarization.
Yeah.
But also I've seen
But
it
it
referred
is,
to
it
as
is
tarping.
shocking when you
It's
see it, and I
tarping,
was like,
yeah.
whoa.
Is
But
there any
it's
reason
not
why,
permanent.
why you can't do that at the club? There's a big stand on the Patuxent,
Mhm.
that you can't get a grant to do that there? Because
I-
that's a perfect place to,
Yeah, you would
To
think, you know, I think if it's a private club, it might be harder to get a grant or something.
oh,
I have no
I don't know.
Well, it's still the invasive
Yeah.
species that's on the water. I think the state wants to get rid of it, so
Yeah.
I think you could
Yeah,
get it for.
yeah.
Well-
I mean, I know they got an estimate, from, was it Autumn or, I don't know if it's the same person. and it
It's
was
our
up-
company.
And it was more than they could
It was very
afford.
affordable, yeah.
Well,
But,
a
but
comment.
they didn't get a grant though, right? There
No.
was no grant involved.
Yeah.
Are you saying maybe because they couldn't?
Well, I don't know if they looked in that direction or
Oh.
not, but.
Well, the yacht club was looking into a permit, like a shore restoration permit, to do some work down along the bulkhead and stuff to improve it. And the answer back, I'm not sure if it was MDE or if it was DNR, but in that particular grant they were looking at, they said, who is this for? Well, it's Solomon's Island Yacht Club. Is that open to the public? No. Then no grant.
Yeah. that's
Was
what-
it
So-
Drake Mighty's though?
Wait a minute.
No, it doesn't matter.
Isn't the yacht club open to the public?
No.
I thought I could walk in there and I'm serious too.
No.
It isn't?
Yeah, well,
No.
into it.
Oh.
You can, if you're a member of another yacht club, you can come in as a reciprocal guest.
But I thought
You
people,
can come
yeah,
in
I
as a-
just misunderstood.
No, you can come in as a guest of somebody, but
You
no,
act
it's
like
it's a
you
private
belong.
club.
That's what it was, I think I acted like I
You
did
just act
Jack.
like it.
and- but I thought there were other strangers like me there.
My-
Never
But
mind.
anyway, so there are, apparently there are some limits on these
My
grants.
point was, something like Drake Mighty's, which the state wants to get rid of, I thought that'd be a
Well,
different
maybe,
situation.
but you know, again, it's,
Uh,
do they make a distinction on,
I don't know.
see, I think in our case, I think in a sense, even though we're a, you know, a so-called private organization, we're not really. I mean, it's a community organization. So I think they probably would, you know, be more likely to accept something like that. But who knows?
I got an idea. You put a sign in the front, public, welcome, $100 cover charge.
There you go.
Yeah, they're welcome.
Well, you gotta drink a long time.
Yeah.
Have to get the right stuff.
Yeah, one nice thing at least.
Okay, anything else on environment?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard anything on the safety? I haven't. Okay. Welcoming committee?
Asha and Jenna assembled, I think, 3 buckets a week and a half ago, something like
And
that.
we're coming back tomorrow.
And they'll be back tomorrow to do 3 more. I've given out 3 in the last week and a half, gave out 2 today.
Did you really?
So, well, I've been sending letters out, so. But, that's it for that.
Okay. All right, planning committee, no, the only activity on that is, I did prepare an application for a grant for shoreline restoration and sent it out to DNR, to our favorite buddy there who never responds. Did we ever get it signed? We
Not
sent it
yet.
certified.
Not yet.
They still haven't got a receipt.
No.
Good at resisting that too, huh?
I sent them out the same day as well, that's
Oh,
just
I
up
know.
at the county, but,
Yeah.
and I got that one back, but anyway.
Okay. If we don't get anything by the time I get Okay.
Might get that.
Okay, how about STD?
I sent that package off the same day, and certified mail, got the return receipt on that within a few days. And last week, I got an email, I got copied on the email from John Norris where he forwarded the package to the commissioners for review. I was very pleased. You know, just because I was concerned I'd get something from John Norris saying, well, you're missing A, B, C, and D. So the package is there, and you had sent me your dates where you were on vacation. So I sent those to John, and John forwarded those to the person that schedules public hearings and so on. And she responded to say that she would be sure to not schedule anything on those particular dates. February, yeah.
I can't see that they would get everything ready by then anyway.
Well, everything has to be in place by first part of June, so
Right.
property, tax bills can be prepared and stuff.
But, okay, so it's moving along. I put service animals on here just to make a recommendation, and and this goes back to, remember there was an incident at the beach where Shirley asked somebody to show her the certificate for their service dog. Well, you can't do that. The ADA regulations and rules say, if it's a dog, and it has to be a dog, can't be a peacock, okay? If it's if that dog does work to support a disability, you can ask if it doesn't, if it supports a disability. Then you can ask, what work does it do? Okay, it's a seeing eye, or it hears, or whatever. You can do that, and I think that ought to be kind of our baseline approach. Now, where this other thing came in, where this like HUD,
Fair Housing
Shield,
Act, the Fair Housing Act.
yeah, but it's part of HUD, and it basically went into all kinds of ramifications about, and basically what it boils down to is for those things that are not truly service dogs, that are like emotional support animals. So if somebody comes in with their peacock, then you can ask them to show you doctor's certification that that's required. Well, until that happens, my approach is, let's treat them like service animals. Let's respect that. Now, they have to control the animal, they have to clean up after the animal, and those kind of things.
So you're broadening it.
Do they have to be on leashes
Yeah,
too?
I think they have to be legal.
They have to be controlled. Now, it doesn't really say,
Well, there is a leash law anyway.
yeah, but see, you have,
Then you go,
once you get
these
into,
guys are
once you
exempt.
get into service, once you get into service animals, you're outside of the normal realm of pets.
Right.
Okay, so,
So is,
the main thing is, it has to be controlled. Now, if you control it by voice,
and
That
this
makes
is
sense, yeah.
more than one, I mean, this seems like it would be a really
It's been
rare
twice.
occurrence. It's
And
happened
the
twice.
In the
Is that-
incidents, what kind of animal was involved?
Dogs.
dog.
Dog, okay.
In this particular case, it was a dog, and I think the woman did say something on the order, this is she had, it wasn't epilepsy, but she had another similar type of condition, and the dog could sense them.
Yeah, well, that's valid.
So, those qualify,
That's valid.
but peacocks don't.
But before, we were going on the basis, based on what Tom Shield had told us, was that you could ask for that. And that stemmed really from 2 years ago, when the man brought a dog, did not have it under control, it was running all over the beach.
Right.
It was maybe not a service dog, it was maybe, but maybe not.
It serviced his free spirit.
Well, there you
Right,
go.
well-
So at that
Dogs are usually
point,
very disciplined.
yeah, at that point, then the attorney said, yes, you can ask, and based on Fair Housing Act information, you could ask for like a doctor's certificate.
Well, but what we should do first is ask the two
Yeah.
allowed questions.
Okay.
Tell the person that the dog has to be under control, and you have to clean up for it. But you can't restrict them from one part of the beach or another. As long as they comply with those things, they're okay. Now, if the dog starts running all over the place, or if they're coming in and the dog's in a little basket that they're holding like this. And I
Who's
start to
supporting
get,
who?
I start to get suspicious, okay? Then we can ask, but I think it's gonna be a rarity. and
Yeah, I think,
I think we
yeah,
just
I
need
do.
to, I explained it to Shirley once and we can explain it.
Well,
again.
and I'll send that to her in an email, and then come springtime, when she's getting
And, you know, it wouldn't hurt to just put a little blurb in the newsletter, but kind of think
Oh,
about how
that's a
we would
good
word that, but,
well, I haven't, I'm just, that would be good.
because I don't wanna open it up to everybody thinks that they're,
Yeah, they don't ask the question sometimes, or don't, you know, don't bring up the topic if you don't wanna.
yeah, exactly, so we'll
So
think
maybe
about
I'll-
that. Maybe, well, let's
So
hold
maybe
on.
not, yeah.
Well, because then if, so then I'll do it in the spring newsletter, because that will make more sense,
Or just wait till it
comes out.
at the end.
I said if we
If
decide.
Shirley-
Or a reminder that maybe when we get close to that point, that when we remind them that, you can't have pets on the beach during this first period of time.
Right.
Unless they are ADA qualified
Right.
service dogs,
Dogs.
That's what-
period.
yeah, that's-
Right,
yeah.
so just leave it very general, okay.
Okay.
Alright.
All right, the other new business then was, we've sent stuff around, but this is on the retainer for our attorney, Tom Shield. And I guess I'm at fault for this, because I looked at the fact that we're paying this guy $2,700 a year, which when you dig into it, only allows us to pick up a telephone and ask him a question, or send him a quick email that he doesn't have to do any research on. And in my opinion, he's not gonna give you a formal legal opinion unless he does it. So we end up, even with that retainer, we end up paying him $370 an hour for whatever he does.
Can we
And-
consider just not continue with the retainer and
Well,
using
so-
both Pickett and them when we need him?
Okay, so here's the deal, we did some more research on it. We asked Tom, do we have to have a retainer, and if we don't have a retainer, then what's the fee?
Now you don't
Okay, he
go
said, no, we don't have to have a retainer, but then you don't get the free phone calls and stuff. Okay, fine. What's the fee? Well, the fee goes from $370 up to $410, so it goes up $40 an hour. Well, if you do the math, at $2,700 retainer, that's 65 hours of advice. Okay, so to me,
You don't talk that much to them, do
we
you?
don't talk that much to
Yeah.
him. We don't have that many problems to talk to him about, and we end up having to pay him anyway. So,
Let's go for the 4 hours.
so in the meantime, though, I had done some more research with a friend of mine and found out about this Pickett firm that's up in Bowie and in Prince Frederick. The nice thing is they have an office in Prince Frederick. And they do HOA work. They kind of specialize in HOA work, but they tend to specialize more in collections, helping you collect your fees, which we don't have a big problem with that. But they do general HOA support work. And they were closer to $300 an hour maximum. That was for a senior associate or a senior partner. And it dropped if you went down to, just a junior associate or a legal. Like for instance, this thing on the, when we had to do the letter for the STD, a legal assistant could have done that work. All they had to do was go back there and say, has anything changed? And verify that it didn't, and then take the exact same letter, which they did, change the dates, and change the address, and it's done. So to me, I'm happy to hear everybody else's opinion.
I think that would
To
be
me,
gross.
we don't lose anything by not doing the retainer.
I agree.
At the rate we use them, we can, and the person at Pickett who does a lot of this kind of work, she's be more than happy to phone into one of our meetings and, we can ask her questions.
You said we wouldn't need a retainer with them.
No, well, we need a retainer, but it's only, it's basically just a document that outlines what their responsibilities are and what our responsibilities are. It's not a fee retainer.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, that's
in agreement.
Seems like what you're suggesting is the right way to go.
Yeah, you know, and the other thing is, I think the idea of not having the retainer with shield and using both of them
Mhm, yeah.
for at least a
Various
year.
Yeah,
Get a sense of who's giving you better service, who's giving
Right.
you,
And I assume
more
we can always
useful
get,
answers.
reinstate the retainer.
Yeah.
if
Oh,
we
sure.
Well, yeah, if we,
So
at
we
some
have to
point,
mean,
sure,
so
yeah.
We should
Right.
decide.
I don't think you
So-
can hold it against us.
Well, no, they'd let it take our money, I'm sure.
oh, yeah.
Well, and we did the retainer a number of years ago when we started to look at our fee structure.
Mm.
And we wanted to be able to have somebody read the covenants and see what we could do to be able to adjust that covenant fee.
But was that
And it
covered
was-
under the retainer?
No, well, Gary was on the phone a lot with Tom Shield back then. And I think so then the retainer made sense.
Mm.
The actual written opinion
Mhm.
cost us
You still have to pay for it.
$3.50 an hour, and it's a nice 4 or 5 page written
Mhm.
opinion, it's well done, as far as I can, in my experience. Anyway,
It worked.
so it made a lot of sense, because when he read that covenant, we had tried years and years to figure out how can we increase the fee, my goodness, you know, we're stuck with it. He said, well, look, it says $10 or a like amount, as long as there are roads to maintain. It was like, oh yeah, or a like amount, 1948, $10 is now worth.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, I think, at the time to have the retainer, because we used them a lot,
Right.
like I say, on the phone, quick emails and so on.
So if we don't have a retainer, he would still be willing to work with us as much as before?
Charge us,
Four,
just charge
10
us.
hours.
So, 10 hours.
Well, I know like some lawyers,
I
like,
think
they
it's a-
won't
I
work
think
with
it's
you
a
unless
great
you have a
plan.
retainer, so.
No, he said he would, it was just the fee would go up.
Right.
And the other thing is, working with them both, it sort of eliminates the pressure on us to make a decision. You know, are you gonna drop them, you're gonna do this.
Yeah,
But
right.
if we have the flexibility to use them both, I think it's
Yeah.
advantageous to
Without a,
us.
yeah, without paying for a retainer.
Okay. Well, so, I don't know if we need I think we can just conduct this as normal business. If you wanna make a motion, that's fine.
I don't,
But what my intent would be to, I'll call Ms. Bryan and see if maybe she would be available at our December meeting to call in and just introduce herself and if people wanna ask any questions about what she can or can't do and that kind of stuff.
So should I draw up a formal letter to Tom Shield and say, you know, no longer going to use your services?
No,
Just
no,
send
we're
them
gonna
an email?
continue using your
No, well,
services, we
no,
don't know,
but
we
I mean,
don't.
we're not gonna
We're
change.
not gonna
You
continue
tell them
with
we're not
retainer.
gonna continue
For the
the
retainer.
retainer.
Can I do that with an email, or do I have to be a little more formal?
Ask him what he wants.
Yeah, so you wanna continue to use the services, but would not.
Maybe he doesn't, maybe he doesn't need anything.
He may not, other than the fact that I didn't pay that.
That's
I
right.
did pay the fee for the SDD,
Right.
the letter,
Mhm.
because that was.
Well, you had to do it for the,
Yeah.
And then when we do our budget, we still put in the thing for legal fees.
Well,
We
we
budget
would-
for.
we'd have to have a budget
an
for that,
estimate, but
but with the big retainer.
we take off the 2,700 flat retainer.
Well, I mean, on here it doesn't say anything about retainers.
No,
it's
no.
just that we-
No, I know, but that's what the fee is based on. I don't remember what's in there.
Well, we've already paid the retainer, right?
Have we
No.
paid it?
Not
Not for the
No.
upcoming year, it runs from
It's
November
expiring
to
now.
November.
Oh, okay.
So
So-
we're, right, yeah, this is the right.
And I explained,
Most of
I
it was
did,
the start, actually.
it was, but I explained that the board was going to discuss it. Because, and he already knows, because Mike spoke to him on the phone, the three of us, mostly Mike of course, about his fees and so on. So he's aware that this is sort of something we're consulting.
Yeah, sorry, we put $8,000 in there, well, that's 2,700 of that is retainer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we can,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I think it's good.
Oh, great.
let's see what I can do about December. Doesn't have to be December, but I think it'd be useful to have her
Mhm.
talk to us. Give us a
Well,
little
then-
fuzzy.
The one will come and talk about the trade monies too, so.
Well, yeah, so we don't wanna do both. Let's, what is it, calendar? Got a new phone, I gotta find everything.
December 7th is the first Tuesday. in
12, do you wanna
December.
join us?
I have a 10 o'clock, but if I'm back in time.
Yeah, sure. It's 12, right?
Yeah.
But it's-
Yeah, 7th would be our normal scheduled time.
Yeah.
That's probably good. Anybody, not like the 7th, other than the fact that it's Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah, they that will live in infamy.
They live in infamy, yeah.
And we're still talking about 6:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt my head,
Yeah, it doesn't-
as long as I can wake myself up in time.
No, taking a nap that late, it's
Yeah.
going to bed very early.
I tell you, I was close tonight. Okay, any seconds or other business? Okay, we are adjourned.